Hey everyone, I'm Alison with Better Half Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about Ludos Africa. This is a collection of 4 different ancient games from Africa, from different countries. So we have Oware from Ghana, Yote from Mali, Dara from Nigeria, and Fanorana from Madagascar. Hopefully I said all of those correct. I tried looking it up. I think I got them right, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. This is the second Ludos collection that Lemery Games has done. They did an Asia one previously that had 4 different games from different countries within Asia. So now we're moving on to Africa and eventually doing some other ones in the future. So in this video, I'm going to give you a brief overview of how to set up and how to play each of these games and give you some of my thoughts at the end. Alright, let's get to it. Fanorona is the national game of Madagascar and dates back to the 17th century. In traditional Malagasy culture, Fanorona held ritualistic and even divinatory significance. Researchers believe it evolved from an ancient game, Alkerke. Since you're in the deep jungles of Madagascar, you are going to be playing as some mischievous lemurs. It's a 2-player war game, and each player starts with 22 troops of lemurs. So there's the green and the yellows. And the setup looks like this, and you leave the spot in the middle empty. The player who is green will go first. So on your turn, you must move one of your lemurs to an adjacent empty space along a connected line. So lemurs may move horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So right here, I could move diagonally, or I can just go up. So I will go this way. In this game, there are 2 types of move. There's capture moves and non-capture moves. So first, let's talk about capture moves. If possible, you must capture on your turn, and capturing can happen in one of 2 ways. You can approach, so I approached this line of lemurs. So with approaching, I can capture the lemur that I approached and any directly behind it as long as there are no gaps or my player piece isn't in the way. So there were 2 in a row, I captured them. If for some reason, just for example, if I somehow had a player piece there and I approached, I'd be able to capture, and then it would stop because my player piece got in the way. Or if there was a gap and I approached, I would only just take the 1. And then it would be the next player's turn. The other type of capture is luring. So I can move away, directly away from the enemy, and then I can take the line right behind it. So I'm luring them to where I went, and I capture them, following the same rules with adjacency and no gaps. It is possible to chain capture and get multiple enemies from different moves, as long as you don't move in the same direction. So like this one, I could move forward and approach and take him, and I can move in the different direction to lure these guys away. And then move away and lure him there. So again, you can only do the chain capture if your movement sets you up for multiple captures, and you can't move to the same spots. So now, as I said, the other type of movement is a non-capture move. If you get in the instance where you can't actually move to capture someone, then you just pick a movement. But again, if you have the option to capture, you must capture. The first player to capture all of their opponent's pieces, or to make it so that the other player is unable to move, wins the game. If neither player can see an opportunity to win, then the game is a draw. And that's how you play Fanorona. Oware originates from Ghana. While its exact origin is debated, one popular belief is that it emerged from the Ashanti people of Ghana. A legend tells of a couple so passionate about Oware that they married to continue playing without interruption. The game's name, Oware, reflects the union. The word is derived from the Akan word where, meaning he and she marries. Oware is a 2-player Mancala type board game where each player owns 1/2 of the land. So 1 row of 6 plots. There's green and yellow. Players will take turns sowing seeds from their own plots to other plots, harvesting from their opponent's side. To win, sow seeds to harvest 25 or more from your opponent's land. So here the game is set up. You will choose either the green or the yellow side, so we'll play as the green side, and you start with 4 cocoa seeds in each plot. To determine who plays first, one person will take a seed, hide it in their hand, and then the other player chooses one hand, and if they find the seed, they'll get to go first. If not, you do. So when you take a turn, you're going to pick up all the cocoa seeds from one plot of land and then move counterclockwise, placing 1 seed in each plot. So I'll take these ones. And so I'm going to drop counterclockwise and go until I run out. and then it would move on to the next player's turn. But in this game, you want to be collecting some of the cocoa seeds, so how do we do that? You harvest. And so I'll show you this example. So if I were to take from this plot of land and drop, if where you place the last cocoa seed makes that plot of land have 2 or 3, you can harvest from that section. So I placed it and that made it have 3. I can harvest all 3 of those, and now I keep them off to the side. And then it would be the next player's turn. There is a way to harvest multiple plots. So if I were to collect these and then drop them, so I made this have 3, so I'd be able to harvest it. And if the plot before it had 2 or 3, I can harvest that as well. So that would be a good chain right there, getting a lot of cocoa seeds in one turn. So if I did have a string of these where I had 2s and 3s on the opponent's side, I could keep collecting as long as it was a contiguous line. But you can only harvest up to 5 plots in a line on your turn. And so I had these 2 that had the 3, but this has too many, so I'd be done harvesting and it would be my opponent's turn. If you do have the instance where there's a spot that has 12 or more seeds and you're choosing to take from there, there are only 12 spots on this board, so when you're going around, you will skip the empty plot that you took from and continue on. So I would go all the way around, skip this spot, and put my last one on there. And that's the only time you'll ever skip placing cocoa seeds on a plot. There is an opportunity for something called There is an instance called compulsory distribution, where if a player runs out of seeds on their turn, aka all 6 of their plots are empty, the other player must distribute at least 1 seed to the opponent's side on their turn. So, like, I couldn't pick up these 3 and just go doot 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 for their turn. They need to play and put some seeds on my side. So they'd probably pick up this one. And then they'd go around, and then that way I'd have some seeds on my side to continue the game. There is also something called the automatic harvest. So if your opponent doesn't have any seeds on their plots, and on your turn you can't get seeds to their side, you harvest all the leftover seeds, and then the game ends. So if it ends in automatic harvest, what you would do is go ahead and count up how many seeds the players have, and whoever has the most wins. If you both somehow got 24 each, then it's a tie. And the regular way the game ends is if someone collects 25 seeds, the game would end automatically. And that's Oware. Dara is a traditional game from West Africa that was passed down through oral tradition and played by the Dekakare people of Nigeria. Dara is a game of planning and foresight, and its essence lies in deceptive simplicity. And it holds ties to other ancient positional games like Nine Men's Morris. So it's a traditional 2-player positional game, and each player controls a set of 12 matching animal spirits. We have the elephants and the lions. The object of the game is to capture at least 10 of your opponent's pieces by forming lines of 3 of your own animal spirits. So Dara is played over 2 phases. There's a summoning phase and movement phase. So in the summoning phase, with the lion player going first, they are going to place their piece anywhere on the board. And then you alternate turns until everyone's placed all their pieces. And remember I mentioned something about lines of 3. So when you're placing pieces down, you maybe want to avoid letting your opponents get lines of 3, or opportunities for them to do so. Once all the pieces have been placed, you will move into the movement phase. So on your turn, you now have the choice to either move one of your pieces orthogonally, so up, down, left, or right, to an adjacent empty space, or you can choose to capture. So with movement, if I were the lions, I could move a piece, and that would be my turn. Better than just moving one piece, what you want to try to do is form a line of 3 pieces of your own with no gaps, and that means that you can capture a piece from your opponent as long as that piece is not in a connected 3 line. So right now, they don't have any 3 in a row according to the line, so I can take any one piece. I'll take this guy. If for some reason you have an instance where you make a move and make multiple lines of 3, you still only capture one opponent's piece. So remember, if I make a line of 3 and I choose to capture, I can choose any piece as long as it's not already in a formation of 3. So I couldn't take these 3, but I could take any of these other elephants. You win the game if you trap 10 or more of your opponent's pieces because they can no longer make a line of 3, or if you make it in a way that they cannot move their pieces at all. That's another way to end the game. And that's how you play Dara. Yote is a game of cunning and quick reversals emerged from the bustling marketplaces of West Africa in Mali from the nomadic Fulani people over 200 years ago. This is a two-player jump and capture game where each opponent plays as camels, either light purple or dark purple. So you have a caravan of 12 matching camels. The player who is light purple will go first. On your turn, you have 3 options. You can deploy a camel, move a camel, or capture. So with deploying, you're just going to place one of your camels on an empty space in the board. And then it would be your opponent's turn. If you choose to move a camel, you can move it orthogonally, so up, down, left, or right. So let's say I move this camel. And then choosing to capture, if there is a space directly behind it, you can jump over a camel, as long as it's an orthogonal movement, and you can remove the camel from the board. And when you jump over a camel after removing it, you also get to remove another camel from the board. Or if you have the instance where you jump over someone and you remove their camel and they don't have another camel on the board to remove, you can take one from their hand. So every time you capture an opponent, you're going to be taking 2 camels. If I have the instance where I'm here, I would not be able to jump over and capture this opponent because they're at the edge of the board. There's no empty space for me to jump into. The game ends in 3 different ways. The player who captures all their opponent's camels wins the game, or if a player cannot deploy or move any camels, the game ends. Then the player with the most camels on the board or in their hand wins. And finally, if each player has 3 or few camels left, then it becomes a draw. And that's how you play Yote. Alright, so that's how you play the games. Let's talk about how I feel about them. So, just in general with the Ludos games, I like the fact that they're bringing ancient games back to the table. So like, there's some games, like a lot of these games where it's like, oh, you know, I've played Mancala before, or like some things are kind of similar where you're like, oh yeah, games where you're trying to capture your opponent's pieces to win. But I like that it has the twist of like, hey, this is where some of these games originated, or, you know, just having like different cultures games on my table is the thing that I really appreciate for the Ludos games, especially. But I like the vibrancy of this, like, it feels very African, like all the cool, like, vibrant colors. And I love having the different themes with the animals. Like, you can play as lemurs, you can play as lions and elephants and camels. I like all those different pieces. And so it's like, oh yeah, there's all these animals in Africa, so let's play as them. Something else that I like, that even though these are different like strategy games and they're very like head to head, you're playing against someone, it is family friendly where like the rules aren't super heavy. So it's like, okay, just you can move your piece up and down, or can you jump over somebody or line them up in groups of 3. It's very family friendly, even if they may not win when you're playing against your children. They are playable. And if they're playing against me, they'll probably still win because I am so bad at these games. What's fun is like, yeah, the rules are simple, and it's like, oh, okay, I just need to move some pieces and try to make a line of 3 for my elephants. But like, you move pieces out of the way and you're focusing on one section so much that you like leave something else open for your opponent to do, and then they take advantage of that, which is what generally happens when I play against Bryce, my husband. So I feel like I lost pretty much every game that we played of these, but it was fun. Oh no, I won one time. Yeah, once. And with these games, it's very compact. I appreciate that. So it has like the nice little boxes. They're very sturdy. Like, this is a prototype, but pretty close to finished. But they're very sturdy and they feel durable. And I love how they fit in this collector's box. So just for example, and everything's like very well thought out. So they have, okay, here's the Dara box. I'm gonna put it together. And they have the different sections. Okay, here's the Dara spot. I'm just gonna put it in there, and it stays in pretty good. It's snug enough, but still comes out very easily with the little pull tabs. So I like that, you know, if you want just the little boxes, you can get those, or if you want to pay for just one of the games, you can get it as a little baggie, and they're doing a pay what you want, which is cool. But if you get all 4, you get the collector's box for free, and this is really awesome. I love the Ludos Asia one, and this one's just as good. I also like that they're very mindful of how they use their information where it's like, yes, this is a tiny little game, but they put things in useful areas. So like all the sides have the information, like depending on how you put this away, you'll be able to see the player count, how long it takes to play it, recommended ages, etc. And then the rules, all little like folded packets, and they give like little bio of where the game came from and how they kind of did things, and like tips on how to play and potentially some variants for the games. So with playing them, if I would say like my top two, I'd probably say that's hard to decision. I think I would say Fanerona and Yote if I had to pick two for my favorites. So I've talked about lots of different pros, colors, theme, and just, you know, having different countries' games on my table is a very cool aspect. Do I have any negatives? As for negatives, and again, this is a prototype, so I don't know if things will change or not, but for me, with playing Oware, these little cocoa beans were just like a little too tiny for me. It was kind of hard to like pick it all up off the mat. So for me, I wish these were a little bit bigger so it'd be easier to pick up and be able to drop them off easier. Because it's like, when you're playing the game, it's Mancala style, and so you end up getting a lot in your hand sometimes. And you're like, trying to drop it down without dropping extras. So I didn't really like how tiny those pieces were. Do I have any other negatives? That's like my biggest issue so far was that, and my other negative would be, I just wish I was better at these games. I'm so bad at playing them, but I have fun playing them, so that's what matters. Alright, so that's my review of Ludos Africa. If you are interested in backing just for one to get a little baggie of the game, or multiple, or all four to get the collector's box, I'll give you a link in the description down below where you can get to the Kickstarter and maybe check it out for yourself. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. I'm Allison with Better Half Reviews. Happy gaming! It actually did land up right. I mean, but this says Ludos. But either way could be up. Anyway, whatever. Stuff. From Africa. Oh, I already said Africa.